afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is another unscripted auction review. Today we're taking a look at a 1999 Toyota 4Runner, currently on Bring a Trailer with about 2.5 hours to go. I'm going to just do a quick overview of everything on this vehicle that I see that stands out. I'm not going to pass full judgment on this vehicle, but I'm going to point out things that are interesting to me, good, bad, ugly, so forth. I chose this one because it's a third generation 4Runner. These are really neat vehicles. They were very well liked when they were new, and they've held on to their value. As you can tell, this one's already at $8,000 with 2.5 hours to go. I suspect it's got some room to go up from there. Some things that stood out to me at first glance here. It's a 99, which was the first year of the first update that the third gen got. Third gen came out in 1996 model year. For 99, they put this different front bumper with this little lip here. There was actually a steel bar behind here. That was the purpose of this. It was for the crash test standards. It improved it a little bit. It's also the first year for what was initially called the Highlander, 4Runner Highlander, and was later just known as the Sport Package, which came with a hood scoop. Initially it had unpainted fender flares, which is what's on this. I haven't actually fully looked at this vehicle, but everything so far points to it being one. It also had the painted color-matched bumper trim in the front and rear here. So let's have a look. Again, at first glance here, I'm seeing aftermarket headlights and aftermarket turn signals. I don't think that these ones down here are aftermarket necessarily, hard to tell. Aftermarket grille. These wheels are, I believe, from a Tacoma. In fact, I'm certain they're from a Tacoma, a much later vehicle, like the one that just went out of production a year or two ago. And somebody's added these rain gutter guards, or I'm sorry, not rain gutter, these window, what do you call these things? Window vents. Front windows have been tinted. That's about it that I see as far as modifications. Nothing that's not reversible here on this one. I think it would look better with the stock headlights and the stock, this grille's not bad looking, but the stock grille would have been chrome. So let's scroll down here. First thing we'll do is take a look at the BAT Essentials. It's in Downers Grove, Illinois, so Chicago area. Definitely Rust Central, so let's look very closely. Don't know where this vehicle's from. We'll find out in a bit. 143,000 miles. That works out to 25-year-old cars. That's well under 10,000 miles a year. Quite reasonable. 3.4 liter, the 5VZ FE, which is the optional engine that year. It was standard on the SR5. Was the base version, which is called the 4Runner base, at a 4-cylinder. It's at 190 horsepower this year. 5-speed manual, relatively rare. Second to last year for that transmission. Dual range transfer case. These have a part-time 4-wheel drive system. At least the SR5s did. Black paint, oak cloth upholstery. That's the correct name. 16-inch Y-spoke alloy wheels. I don't know that I would call those Y-spoke, but whatever they are. It does bring up that it has the Sport Package, which again was called the Highlander Package for this year. So they do have the wrong name on it there, but that's all right. Not surprising. I do have a 4Runner brochure from this year that I'm going to reference. They technically, I'm actually wrong. They did call it the Sport Package in 1999. Maybe they called it the Highlander the year before. I'll have to look that up. Interesting. I do have that wrong. Maybe it was just marketed as the Highlander package. I forget exactly. I know that they used the Highlander name for the crossover that continues today, but which was not sold in the 99 model year. I think 2000 was the first. Anyway, it's got a roof rack, power rear window. The roof rack was an option. The power rear window was, interestingly enough, standard on every 4Runner in the third gen. Even if it didn't have power windows, it had a power rear window. CD cassette stereo, air conditioning, cruise, clean Carfax, sold by a private party. Let's see here. The introductory paragraph is pretty much a rehash of everything that was just said. It was purchased by the seller in 2022. Looks like there might be some records dating back to 2021. At some point it's had the timing belt, water pump, thermostat, valve cover gaskets, fuel pump, idler pulley, drive belt tensioner, tires, shocks, front brake pads, and rotors done. That's all really nice stuff. Timing belt is due at 90,000 miles on these, or I think that's every 8 years if I remember correctly. But presumably was done within enough range here that you probably don't need to worry about it for a few years. Clean Carfax, clean Illinois title. Scroll through the pictures here. First shot, this is the rear of the vehicle. I notice it's missing its 4-wheel drive badge. The American market ones had a 4-wheel drive badge there if they were 4-wheel drive, which this one is. Canadian ones just said SR5. even the placement of the SR5 badge seems like it might be a little bit off. Something's definitely amiss there because the paint looks like it doesn't quite match. We'll have to look at the other pictures for a little more detail, but it doesn't quite look like it matches. I could actually make my screen a bit bigger here. Maybe I can't. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, maybe that helps everybody. So yeah, something is definitely amiss back there. I wonder if it's had a tailgate replacement that happened to come from either a two-wheel drive or a Canadian market one. Looking at my brochure here, the badge actually does seem to line up. Maybe it is where it should be. I was thinking the SR5 badge was in the center on those, but something we're going to look at closely again. It's got a trailer hitch. I think that was the Toyota hitch. That might be a fact. Well, they were all installed at the port, but a port installed trailer hitch. This tailpipe definitely has some sort of a cover on it there. Finished in black, features the sport package, which added painted fender flares. Well, that's wrong because these are black plastic. These are not painted. And a hood scoop. That is accurate. Additional equipment includes running boards, which are here. These look like the Toyota running boards. A roof rack, LED headlights, mud flaps. This rear mud flap was standard. If it did not have running boards, it also had a mud flap down here. I think you can probably still buy the correct mud flap there. Been a while since I've looked. Receiver hitch, rear window wiper. Corrosion on the bumper covers and running board. All right, can't see that in this picture, but we'll look in a minute. Close-up photographs, blah, blah, blah. 16-inch Y-spoke alloy wheels. I guess those are Y. I don't know. That's what I'd call them, but fitted with Bridgestone Dueler tires mounted in 2021. These are probably even the takeoff tire from the Tacoma. Front discs, rear drums. These came with ABS on them, at least the SR5. I'm pretty sure it was standard. Sway bar links, rear shocks, and brake pads and rotors were replaced in 2021. All relatively easy stuff to replace, but still really nice to see that somebody's done all that. Let's see here. Yeah, I think ABS was standard on these. We'll see here. Yeah, it was standard on the SR5. First interior, it's got the oak cloth, which is a nice look. The other color was sort of a blue. They call it gray, but it definitely presents more as blue. So I always like the tan more. I see what looked like some WeatherTech mats there. A wood applique. This was really common. A lot of these had these installed at the port or at the dealer. This is probably what this is. Probably not aftermarket. See that 5-speed manual shifter, the transfer case. I always loved the way these just kind of swim together in their own, in the center console there. Somebody's put a steering wheel cover on it. I would want that removed, or at least see what's under it. Let's see, not a lot of details here that are unique. Replacement headliner specified for a vehicle with a sunroof has been installed. So I don't know what that means. That's real strange. We'll take a look. I don't know if this has a sunroof or not. Somewhat uncommon to see these without a sunroof. It was a line item option on these, but still pretty strange. Let's see here. It points out that the steering wheel has the cover. The wood trim looks like it's going. It's delaminated pretty bad. This wasn't real good looking wood trim when these were new, and it has not aged well. I see a little blue light over here, probably for an aftermarket alarm. That's the clutch start cancel, so you can start it without using the clutch for off-road use. There's the cruise control. That was standard. It does look like there's a lot of wear on this steering wheel. I'm sure you can get these recovered. We can get any steering wheel recovered, but I would definitely do that rather than this thing. That's pretty ugly. 143,000 miles, 7,000 of which under current ownership. Under hood here, wow, there's a lot of rust on the light, or on the bolts, nuts, and so forth. Anything that would have been exposed metal is definitely rusty, which points to this having been a rust market car. Rust is a big worry on these vehicles. But let's see here. We'll look underneath before I pass full judgment. But it's clearly been heavily cleaned under here. We'll see better pictures in a minute. 183 horsepower. I had that wrong. It wasn't 190. 183 horsepower, 217 pound-feet of torque. Those are correct. Since 2017, they replaced the timing belt, water pump, thermostat. Those you do all together. Valve cover gaskets, fuel pump, idler pulley, and drive belt tensioner. All nice stuff. All right, here's the frame. I'm sure there will be going to be better pictures. Definitely right off the bat, some rust right in here. Sort of the weld points where you get at that. Looks like it might have been repaired. It's hard to say. Looks like it's probably had some paint applied to it as well. I see rust on the brackets for the running boards here. Undercoating was applied, so yeah, there you go. Holes in the floorboard repaired and a transfer case fluid and rear differential fluid were changed in 2021. So this has definitely had some work done on it. I was definitely right on that, and I suspect something's been done here too. This just does not quite look right. And I see remnants of salt or whatever they put on the roads where this lived are all over the transfer case and transmission here. That said, the fuel tank skid plate looks pretty good. We'll get better pictures, I'm sure. Let's pop open this Carfax. 24 service records, 7 previous owners. Goodness. We'll see if this is actually 7 owners. Sometimes Carfax will, if you move or something like that, they might say something. Owners 1 through 5 in the first 20 years. Owner 6, 1 year. Owner 7, the seller has had it for 2 years. It's been in Michigan and Illinois. We know that. Let's see where else. It was originally sold January 1st, 1999. That was a Happy New Year gift for somebody in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. That's near Pittsburgh, which is definitely not a good place for rust. First registered in April of that year. Seems like a while, but who knows? Fair amount of miles the first year, 14,000. No, that's about right. 13 months later. The CD player was replaced. That's kind of funny. I'm not going to worry too much about these old services, although it was definitely dealer serviced. Looks like every 5, 6, 7,000 miles, somewhere in there. First owner was pretty good about that. Service contract in 2004, and then a new owner shortly thereafter. So that probably is this person, second owner, who bought it in September of 2004, so 3.5 years. That original owner put a lot of miles on it at that time, 75,000 miles. No, I'm sorry, I'm doing the math wrong. 5 years. I was thinking it was at 2001. Let's see here. They also did some dealer services. They didn't put a ton of miles on it. How was that? 74,000. They put 10,000 miles on it in less than a year. So about average. And then it moved to Garden City, New York, which I think is New York City area. I think that's maybe Long Island. I'm not sure, but and then it was immediately doing, almost immediately to an auction as a fleet vehicle. This seems a little strange, but this is probably this person sold it. This might be off a little bit here. It might have been to an auction at some point. It was titled in New York through a dealer that bought it. I'm not too worried about all that. Plus, that was 20 years ago. And it ended up in Arlington, Virginia, Washington, D.C. area. So this is probably not a real owner here. This is probably a dealership transfer type thing. This one appears to be, though, somebody in Falls Church. It's outside of D.C. A better climate, still a little rust prone, but definitely not as bad as Pennsylvania. They had it not very long here. Well, 2 years, I guess. Not a lot of miles put on it. What did they get it at? That's hard to say. Yeah, actually hard to say how many miles they put on it. Because it was at 83,000 in 2005. Yeah, no, they didn't put a ton of miles on it. Not a big deal. Not surprising. DC commuters typically take public transit anyway. Shortly thereafter, it ends up in Silver Spring, Maryland. This is also a DC area. Not a lot of information here other than regular inspections. It does appear to have passed these, which is nice. There's a service in a couple of services around here. I'm not going to worry too much about these. Looks like this person had it for a while. Then they probably traded it to a dealer that sold it at auction with 133,000. So this person put, about 35,000 miles on it in how many years? In 10 years. That's definitely indicate this. So this is where the mileage slowed down. Definitely indicates somebody who took public transit to work or worked from home or something like that. Not uncommon. DC area, you see a lot of lower mile vehicles. So here it ends up in Michigan in vehicle purchase report. And this is so here we get into the COVID era. They bought it in February of 2020 before the world shut down for COVID. They didn't actually register it until December of 2021, which does seem like a very, very long time, even accounting for COVID. They did not put any miles on it at all, because here it is at 135,000 miles on the other side of Michigan. I believe Wayland is in the Detroit area. I might be wrong, but I think that's there. And then Grand Rapids is the other side of the state, closer to Chicago, where it was offered by, this is a dealer that keeps, as their title suggests, they kind of specialize in lower mile cars. And not a lot of miles, at a month or so here, and it's visited 2 different dealerships two 2 times it's visited a service facility in the Chicago area after this person bought it in February. So they bought it and immediately did some work to it. But probably not a big deal. That's in Frankfort, Illinois that they bought it. I'm going to guess this is... So I don't know. This is hard to say if this was a real owner or just a dealership that kept it for a while. Many things possible there. But here it is in 2022 in Frankfort, Illinois, which I'm not sure where that is. I'm guessing by the fact they serviced it in Downers Grove and Westmont that it's the Chicago area. But they took it back to this place again, to Midas a couple times. Let's see. So this is more services we should worry about because these are fairly recent. Air conditioning serviced in 2022. Basic service in 2022. Here's the exhaust, had some work done to it. Valve cover gaskets, wheel bearing seal, intake manifold gaskets. Interesting that wasn't mentioned. Sometimes these are not accurate. We'll see if there's actually receipts in here in the auction. They put a battery on it at a Walmart, then an oil change, and here we are today where it's for sale. All right, let's go take a look-see. There's some videos here. As usual, I will watch these later. If there's anything to report, I will note it. But let's see here. These are nice photos, probably professional here. Whoops, made that disappear. This is the hero shot. Don't need to go over this again. Front end shot. That's very nice. I suspect it's had some paint in the front here. They usually aren't this clean with decent miles on them like this. I do see some rock chips or something on the hood here. It looks like there might be something on the roof. Could also be a reflection. Antenna's not all the way down. Somebody's put those beam wipers on it, which usually don't work well on cars that weren't meant for beam wipers. So I'm going to be looking for a sunroof to see if it actually has one, because it noted that it had a sunroof headliner, which is quite strange. I think a seal might be missing around the windshield here. Something's funky there. Hard to say. Pretty straight from the side, though. This looks like it's slightly misaligned, these plastic panels here, but it might not be the case. Really clean. This black paint looks great. I wonder if it's original. Here's that rear shot. This is definitely not a match. There's something funky here. We'll see if there's a close-up. But I suspect the tailgate was replaced. Just given it doesn't say four-wheel drive and it was a U.S. market vehicle, there's something amiss. Yeah, if you look, it's a real subtle difference here. But there's 2 different blacks going on there. Could be something that a polarizing filter has picked up. But no, I mean this is definitely different. Back to the front here. Here's those headlights. They're projectors. I would personally junk them, but I would wonder what the wiring looks like under here. Some chips that have been touched up. Still some chips there. That might just be cleaning stuff that wasn't cleaned off well. Yeah, not a big fan of non-OEM headlights personally, but there's that badge. We've got some streaking going here. That might just be from the most recent wash. I'd want to see an updated picture though. Side view here, a little tiny bit of fade on the plastic or the rubber here, but that's, I mean, 25-year-old car. Let's be fair here. This would be a spot right under here. This pinch weld would definitely be a spot where you will get rust building up. But hopefully we see some clearer photos there. But really nice. I mean, even the fender flares have a nice black sheen to them. I suspect they've been painted because they look a little too dark. So maybe they are actually painted, although that wasn't factory. See some rust right here. Not unexpected given where this vehicle's lived. If you live in Phoenix or Albuquerque or something, a dry climate, I'm not sure this would be the 4Runner for you. But there's that hood scoop. These weren't functional, but they're still cool. I see some fading on one of the windshield wiper arms, I think. We'll see if that's actually the case. So this is the running board, I believe. Yeah, this is the running board there with the Toyota accessory. A lot of these were installed at the port of entry when these cars came from Japan. There's that antenna that doesn't go all the way down. Probably a pretty easy fix unless the motor is out. If it's just a mast that's bent, pretty easy. But I would ask if the antenna goes all the way up and down. That's just kind of annoying. And I think you can replace all of this at the same time. The actual antenna, to get to that, you probably have to pull the wheel well liner. A little more intensive, but not that big of a deal. Something looks sort of reddish here. I don't know what that could be. And I do think the windshield wiper arm should be replaced or painted. So this is where I think this has probably been painted, this black plastic. It should be a little bit more matte than that. Rock chips on the mirrors, but again, it's a 135,000 mile, 25-year-old car. or 145, whatever it was. This sort of looks like it's been painted. In fact, I'd say with pretty high confidence that this door has been painted around here, around that handle. And this one too. I wouldn't be surprised if this whole vehicle has been painted. I just see some imperfections in the paint and a waviness that doesn't look factory. So I would definitely, yeah, it's too wavy. I would be asking the seller about that for sure. This is the tailgate, which maybe hasn't been painted. So it's a replacement is my guess. There's that one SR5 badge, Toyota badge. Yeah, I mean, you can tell, admittedly, I'm nitpicking here, but that's what this purpose of this video is. But you can tell here just that this is, the smudginess underneath this is just from where it's been cleaned over the years. This is probably original or very old paint. And I really think the rest of the vehicle has been painted. Roof rack's got a lot of fade or wax or something on it that's kind of unsightly. I personally would just remove the roof rack. You can get these, I don't know if they still make them, it's been a while, but the black plastic strips that go over there for vehicles that did not have the roof rack, just put that on there. They have a nice clean look with the flat roof. We do remember we need to look for that sunroof up there. I keep forgetting. There's that wheel, tire, I think that's an OEM tire, that Dueler HT, so this is probably a takeoff from a Tacoma. I'd want to know about the date codes, hard to read there unless we expand. I can't read that. Maybe there's a close-up. I do see a zip tie holding something back here. Don't know what. That's probably the fog light or the turn signal assembly. Here's another tire. I don't think we're going to be able to see those date codes. There's another. This one might be clear enough. Yeah, it looks like it says 2017. Yeah, these are old tires, 2017. So they're 7-year-old tires now. Keep that in mind. You're probably going to replace tires fairly soon. Yeah, this has definitely been painted. This is just sloppy prep work in here. Not necessarily a bad thing, but these fender flares have been painted too. These were not painted from the factory. You can even see a little bit of maybe overspray there and an inconsistent. I'd be willing to bet that these have been painted black. They look fine, but just be aware. You're not getting a Concours example here. All right, we're moving to the interior. This does not have the rear differential lock. It was a desirable option. Probably on 1 in 5 of these, so pretty rare at this point. It does have the clutch start cancel button. That was with all the manuals. This is, so you can tell the OEM or original equipment wood trim because it had the markings here for the vent on and vent off. That's the off, that's the on. Not really a big selling point at this point because it's all started to delaminate. Little blue dot there for something. I'd be wanting to ask about that. I'm sure there's an aftermarket alarm. Those are usually not well installed. And they can be a battery drain if nothing else, and an immobilizer can be a real pain on an older vehicle. Inside we've got the stock cassette player with the CD player above it. I believe that might have been, you're looking at the brochure, that is the correct setup probably. They did have a built-in 3-in-1 unit, AM, FM, CD, and cassette, but I'm not totally sure that was available on the SR5. Yeah, it looks like the SR5 came only with the cassette and then they had to do the CD player separately. The 3-in-1 was restricted to the limited for 99. The one thing, I didn't mention this before, but the one thing that's really interesting to me about the 99's, less of an issue in 2024 now, but they had a slightly higher riding suspension than the 2000s. So that used to be a common thing where people would swap out 99 springs and get 3/4 of an inch or so of lift. Hard to tell on this one. I actually didn't look to see if those tires are the stock size. In fact, let's just zip back real quick and see. Because it should be a 265/70, which it is. So they are the stock size tire on the stock size for a 4Runner. Go back here. All right, we're looking at this dashboard picture. So yeah, the Toyota emblem on the wood trim is also showing this was the OEM original equipment stuff. It was an accessory. It's kind of funny, the brochure, which you guys can't see, but I can, pictures a 4Runner 5-speed manual with the same SR5 trim, which you can tell because it's got the manual climate control and the black steering wheel. The Limiteds had a color match steering wheel and automatic climate control. And it shows the wood trim in it in exactly the same places. It's kind of funny. Although that picture does show the 3-in-1 head unit, which this one does not have, but just a random little point there. Some wear on the transmission lever or the gear knob there. But 140 some odd thousand miles. This looks great from here, other than that wood delaminating. You can buy, I'm sure you can find used plastic panels. This stuff will come off. I just don't know how much residue will come off at this point. The glue that was holding these on, the adhesive, that might be really, 25 years on, might be hard to get rid of. Back in 1999, this was pretty easy to just peel it off and hit it with a gentle cleaner, but at this point that might be tricky. I don't think it's too hard to find black plastic pieces though. Let's see, here we are in the side of the interior. Seats look great. These were pretty hard wearing seats, but still I don't see any staining. They are really, really nice. Pretty comfortable too. They were small but comfortable seats. Manual adjustment on these seats on the SR5. And you could not get leather from the factory on an SR5, but that's not to say that there were not port or dealer installed leather on these, but that was not the case from the factory. Seatbelt's got some wear on it here, but you could clean that. Although actually it's a little starting to fray a bit. I probably would replace that seatbelt in the interest of safety, but I'm very safety conscious. I'm going to back up here because I did notice that this B-pillar trim looks a little loose. Could probably push that back in. This all looks nice. Steering wheel, as I said before, there's either some wear or just some grime. I would probably try to clean this first. I don't know. Hard to say without seeing it up close, but it might be cleanable. So it did have the factory fog lights. I believe that was part of the Sport or Highlander package. Yeah. If it had the port install fog lights, you wouldn't have this. It would be a rocker switch on the dashboard. So this should have been cleaned with an interior cleaner. That's what these are specifically for, because these have started to fade away. You can even see where somebody's probably hit this very recently with a general too abrasive of a cleaner. And this all looks nice, other than that obvious delaminating. I would be pulling that stuff off. I don't mind wood trim, but this stuff is just, it's past its prime here. Glove box is clean, little scuff here, nothing major. Here we see the instruments. Now note that there is a check engine light, but that is because the vehicle is not on. This is something I think a lot of people don't think about, but I would have the vehicle running when I would do this. I would probably do one picture like this, where the vehicle is off and you can see all the lights that would illuminate normally, and then another one with the vehicle running to show that all the lights are actually off. Something funky has happened to the instrument cluster here. I don't know what that is. We'll see if that's in another picture. These had this sort of almost carbon fiber-esque grain to them, which I always thought was kind of neat. The instruments are actually gray, whereas the background is black. It was a little too subtle, but it still looked neat. 143,000 miles. This all is normal here. This would be the ECT power button and one with an automatic, which holds the transmission and gear longer. Here's that radio that I spent way too much time talking about. No idea if any of that works. We'd have to ask the seller. Door panel looks nice. There's some streaking going on here, probably from a cleaner. I would have done a little better job cleaning that, I think. But this has been cleaned out in here. It's a little mucky looking, but it could just be dirt. Yeah, this one's a little rougher, but still not bad. Some scuffs in the back door here. Nothing you can do about those at this point. Some sort of a browning to the seatbelt label here. Probably somebody spilled coffee on it at some point, something like that. The carpet looks dirty underneath too, so hopefully they've provided some pictures. This door has a lot of little chips in it. So somebody has slammed a seatbelt or something in it, a lot. Maybe somebody had a kid at one point in the back seat. A lot of door slams, I don't know. They did. I'm going to back up. It almost looks like rust around there. I don't know. These, I'm not sure what's... Oh, this is the fender flare. Yeah, I think that's where the fender flare clips on. I haven't seen one of these in person in a while. The driver's side door switches are filthy. I don't know if those would clean up easily. I'd probably consider buying a new one. Those just look gross. And I'm not talking about the wood trim. I was talking about the actual plastic. Passenger one looks better. Rear seat. There weren't particularly comfortable rear seats in these, but this is pretty typical for these to sort of stretch out like this. You really can't do anything. They have a little pocket here that I think a lot of people forget about. I think it's just on the passenger seat, but you can put a cell phone in there today. It wasn't something you were doing in 1999 necessarily, but today you can. This just looks like there's two different colors going on here. I have no idea. I mean, was this thing painted gray once, or is this just a camera trick? These WeatherTech floor mats are nice to have. Those are fairly expensive, a few $100. Rear seat looks just as clean. All right, so here's what they're talking about with that sunroof. This is bizarre. So this is a non-original sunroof switch and a non-original sunroof. They didn't quite look like that. The original sunroof switch was in here. So what somebody has done is needed to replace the headliner. They found one with an aftermarket sunroof, a headliner with an aftermarket sunroof, and they put that in. That would bother me. I wouldn't like that at all. Makes you wonder why they did that, and was that actually cheaper than just getting a new headliner? Was the big question I have here is, was the cardboard style backing to the original headliner, did it go bad for some reason? Was there a leak from the roof rack on this? That's the only holes that should be in the roof are through the roof rack. Something that I would have a lot of questions on that. Definitely have a lot. Also, this door seal, looking at it here, does not look original. It's probably been replaced. Not that strange, but that's probably not an OEM seal. Driver's well, footwell here. That all looks pretty typical for the mileage. I always like that little extra vent you had there. WeatherTech mats are not new by any means, but they look fine. Could scrub them a little better, but you know, we're not going for a car show here. That's what I was talking about with that other seatbelt. The buckle was yellowy. This one's not. Cargo area. That carpet's really clean, actually. He's usually had a cargo carpet or another mat in them that was carpeted. Not here. And this should have had a what do you call it? A cargo net, because that's what this is for. It was not standard on these. It's also missing, or at least is not pictured, the cargo cover, the rollout one that would clip into both sides here. Maybe this is all pictured in a minute. Some scuffs around here, but you know, it's been used as a vehicle. This, we'll see if they open this up. This, I don't think, had anything in it. From what I remember, I don't think the jack and the tools were in there, but I might be wrong. We'll see. This headliner still looks like it's falling. It's just so strange. Back of the tailgate, that looks fine. Some scuffs there, a little bit of rust, but... Alright, we're at the engine. As before, I mentioned that there's rust on every little piece of exposed metal here, and this is really unsightly. Definitely shows a vehicle that has lived in snowy places for a long time, which is true. I mean, other than its stint in the DC area, it has lived in places that get a lot of winter weather. Not to say that DC doesn't, just not as much. All right, underneath here, we're looking from the front. Yeah, I mean, so we know that it's been painted under here. Just how well it was painted and when are the questions that I would have here. But the front of the frame here, where it's boxed, these are all rusty. That's not been painted. This shouldn't be white. I don't know why it is. Something's happened there. These front brake calipers the front brake calipers. Yeah, I did say the right thing. Been a long day. These are quite rusty. And I just noticed all the rust. There's actual rust perforation here on this skid plate. I mean, you can replace this skid plate. Somebody's been in here because these are new bolts. They don't match anything else. Yeah, somebody's been there. Ugh. It looks worse up close. I mean, this is not the end of the world for this truck. It's got plenty of life left in it, but just something to be aware of. You probably want to wire brush that, bring it down, and then paint it with a good paint after a prep. Same on this side. This one looks worse for sure. I don't think this is where metal's been replaced, but it's a bit of a blurry photo. It's not just your screen. Exhaust had some work done. We know that. This has got some black paint on it here, maybe. And I'm not sure what's happening with this guy right here. Something looks like it should be plugged in there. I don't know what sort of a breather would be on the catalytic converter, but spare is probably an original tire. That was an OEM Wrangler RTS. That was the original tire. Spare is toast. It's been painted because these, I think, were black. I don't think they were silver. So it's been painted at some point and then has still rusted. Back of the exhaust here where the tailpipe is rusty. There's a zip tie holding probably some wiring that goes to the trailer hitch, because that's the trailer hitch there. Had a lot of paint work done on it. I think it said that the rear diff had been serviced. I forget, but it looks all right. Bottom of the transmission here is just sort of gnarly looking. Not a very good photo. But, yeah, Midwest. There's that. Replacement exhaust components. These are, I thought it said the shocks had been replaced recently. These are rusty, these back ones. And I don't know what that blue is. It might be a Monroe. It's not not a particularly high end. Yeah, this rear axle is definitely rusty. It's nothing imminent here, but you're going to want to paint that if you're going to plan to use this. Those arms for the running boards are all rusty. I'm afraid if you take these running boards off, though, you're going to have rust in the pinch welds there. So I might leave them on at this point unless you're looking for a big repair. Very blurry VIN photo. Here's another. Now this is a head scratcher because it says it was made in January of '99, but that's when it was first sold. It was on January 1st of '99. That does not. I'm not saying there's anything wrong here. That original entry is probably just incorrect for some reason, but it's a bit strange nonetheless. I don't think you're going to run into an issue with that, because at this point nobody's going to do that thorough of a VIN inspection. If you were exporting it, you might, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal. So this is a California emissions vehicle. Pennsylvania, I believe, was part of California emissions, and it looks like Toyota must have done a California and a what we call 49 state emissions. So this one has just something to be aware of. Illinois I don't believe is a California state currently, but some are. We've got some receipts here. See if we get close-ups of these. I can't. They're too hard to read. But a lot of this is in here. Valve cover gaskets, muffler clamps, oil change. I mean, if you zoom in, you still can't really see it. Replace hood cable, positive battery cable, or terminal, rear wiper arm, and diagnose rear wiper motor and rear window. So something was going on there. Fuel level sender. This was, I believe there was a recall for this spec when they were new because they were incorrect. They bought the headlights on aftermarket, paid $600 for those. Goodness. Oh, they do give you the original headlights, so there you go. Hey, you could clean these up real nicely, put them back on. Don't know how much wiring's was needed for these, and maybe it's just been a plug and play. 2 non-original keys with a non-original remote. So that's that blue alarm light. I would want to see a video of this in operation. Here's a detail of the steering wheel. This looks like something that the seller has added after the fact. The last photos in a Bring a Trailer listing are what the seller has added during the course of the auction. This is the bottom of the steering wheel, and that's, yeah, I can see why they put the, I assume it's the bottom unless the steering wheel is turned upside down. Kind of hard to tell, but yeah, in fact, I think it was, because that's the curve of the airbag cover. Anyway, that's gross. Yeah, I can see why they put the cover on it. Oh, that's way worse than I thought it was. Yeah, I would be replacing that steering wheel. Not a big job. Got to disconnect the battery. And probably this may need a steering wheel puller, but not a big job. Oh, interesting. So this has been at Davis Autosports at some point in 2020. So that explains why it sat. There was that little gap there, which roughly corresponds with that. So this is interesting. This is a shop in Charles City, Virginia. I think it's near like Virginia Beach. These guys are known for 4Runners and XJ Cherokees. You can research them. I'm going to save you that effort. But they did, this is the second of 4 pages here, but they did water pump thermostat, which they spelled wrong. It's thermostat housing, I guess. Or the idler pulley, tensioner, labor. So this is probably where the front page probably also references the timing belt as well, because you would do that all together. Valve cover gaskets, which I thought had been done more recently as well, so maybe they didn't do a good job on them. Front rotors and pads, $600 for that, goodness. Rear differential service, that's a lot of money for that. And transfer case service, same. Rear shocks, they put those blue ones on, so this is interesting. They put these on roughly 3 years ago, and they're already rusty. And whatever shocks they put on there are just sort of I think just a generic shock. A full interior detail and a fill in a burn hole, so somewhere there was a burn hole. 24-hour ionizer treatment, $3,300. Additional frame and metal repair, so here's where they did some metal work to it. Somewhere here there's a $10,000 grand total. Somebody owed $800 for something. It might have been the metal. So we'll see what other pages are here. There we go. This is page 1. Should have read this first. Paint correction, $2,000. Frame repair, So services isolated to 2 major areas of concern in front of rear control arms. If we find any other major areas, we'll send a quote. So they must have found more that they needed to do. Plus they did more rust. They sandblasted and descaled the frame and floor pan. It knocks off loose and flaking rust. Does not involve replacing metal. So they just did a clean and then they did the repair. That's in the bad order. And then they applied POR15 on it, which is a rust inhibitor. Some sort of a 3M undercoating. Some holes in the frame. And then they also happen to do sway bar end links and bushings. This is roughly $3,800 in frame metal work there, plus that other $800, so $4,500 or so. They put some used tires on it for $500. That's interesting. Those must have been those takeoffs that are on it. A fuel pump, and then the timing belt service. Okay, I'll let you make your own conclusions on pricing there. There's a more detailed photo, I guess. I thought we saw this one already. You can see some rust on the bottom of the side steps there, the running boards, and the rust around. This isn't too bad. A little bit of rust there. It's more on the rear axle. I wonder how extensive Davis Autosport's work was. All right, one more photo here. I think we already saw this one too. So there you go. We're back to the beginning. As I said, this has 2 hours to go, now less than 2 hours because I've been talking for a while, and an $8,000 current bid. We'll see where this ends up. I'll put that at the end here. Seller talked a little bit about the rust issues, and he or she recommends POR15 as well. Here we go. The previous owner is the one who did all that work with Davis Autosports. That's $10,000 worth of work. Didn't say when the headliner was done on it. Let's see if that gets mentioned. No, there's very few comments on this. Nobody's even mentioned the headliner. Interesting. All right, well, thank you very much for watching. As always, please like, share, and subscribe this video to my channel. Like, share, and subscribe to the video, and subscribe to my channel. If you wind up winning this auction, please let me know. I'd love to interview you, talk to you about what your purchase experience was like. You know, what led you to this particular 4Runner? It is definitely an appealing combination of features: that manual transmission, the black paint, the hood scoop, and so forth, and the tan interior. There's definitely some things that look very nice about this vehicle. So yeah, I will update this with the final selling price in a minute here. Thank you very much.